Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Valensik. If I haven't met you in person yet, thanks for coming out this afternoon, and thank you to everyone online today. So glad that you could all meet this afternoon. I just want to cover a few extra logistics before we get started here, just so you know the lay of the land if you haven't been in this room before. So just so you know, bathrooms are across the hall. If you go out either of these doors, you can just go right out the hall. The men's and women's room, as well as a water fountain and water bottle refiller, are out that way. To the other side of the room, on the back side, if you go out the halls, there's a canteen area. You can get drinks and snacks, whatever you need to keep you going during the meeting. And just so you know, for emergencies, we did this last time, but the emergency exits are the front doors that you came in here, or there's also a back exit here, and it goes out to our courtyard. But just know, if you go out that way, you need a key badge to log in to get back in. So don't lock yourselves out that way. So, all right, now that that's done, I'm gonna move on with our meeting for today. So we start all of our presentations at DelDOT with our motto here, which is providing excellence in transportation for every trip, every mode, using every dollar, and for everyone. We do have a really chock-full agenda for you all this afternoon, so we have a lot to get through. First of all, we're going to start with a roll call in just a minute. Then we are going to go through the previous meeting minutes from January and have those up for you to review, and let me know if we have any edits or changes to those before they're approved. And we'll have an upfront public comment period. So if there's any members from the public, in person or online, we have some time to speak before we go through the whole meeting. They don't have to wait to the end. Then we'll also go through one of the requirements of this Pedestrian Council, which is to review the quarterly statistics on the fatal pedestrian crashes across the state. So we'll go over that. Thanks, Sam. And then we'll go through some of the Pedestrian Council website updates that are being proposed for our website, and we can give us some feedback on that as well. And then we'll spend the majority of our time brainstorming some different focus areas that we can work with your different agencies and organizations on in the future to really promote and get some work done that we're responsible for as the Pedestrian Council. I'll also go through a bit about what we have in the council's budget, both for this year and then the couple next years that we have coming out, and we can hopefully make some decisions about how we're going to be using that money in the future. And then we'll take our chair election and go through that process here. So we have a chair in place that's going to help us run the meetings and move the agendas forward that we want to work on. And then lastly, we'll close up with picking a couple of the next meeting dates. We have some to suggest to you all, and you can just give some feedback right here. We'll try to alternate them a little bit, so it's not always the same day of the week, because we're missing some people with it always being on Wednesdays. We had some trouble scheduling the Zoom, so we'll go through all that. But all right, to start us off, we're going to do a little bit of roll call. I'm going to ask my friends from GMT, Sophie or Angie, if you guys can go through and just call out names since you guys have the list in front of you. You can just say present or here. When you hear your name, we'll take your roll and make sure we have a quorum so we can hold those and continue with the agenda as stated on the agenda that we put out already.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Maureen Kelly.
Present.
Sharon Bryson from, sorry, you're good. Benjamin Schrader, State Council Persons with Disabilities. Is anybody else here for the State Council?
Yeah, I'm here, Carol Schrader. Benjamin had surgery yesterday, so he's in the room, but he's a little medicated. So I'm covering for him today.
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah.
Tom Nickel.
Present.
Tara Colpo. Tara Colpo for the Americans with Disabilities Act Title II Coordinator with the Department of State. Anybody else from the Department of State in Karen's absence? No? Okay. John Sisson, DTC.
I'm here.
And do we have a representative for the Department of Land Use of Newcastle County? And possibly Antoni Sekowicki or Charuni Patabandi? I'm really butchering these last names, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Patabandi.
Anybody from the Department of Land Use with Newcastle County? No. All right, how about Jeffrey Starkey? Land Use and Planning for City of Wilmington? Anybody else here from the City of Wilmington? Right. How about Chris Connolly from Kent County? Chris, are you online?
It appears Chris put a chat message.
saying they're here, but the phone is muted.
Okay, thank you. Jamie Whitehouse, Sussex County Planning and Zoning. Anybody else from Sussex County Planning and Zoning? No. All right, Dr. Kevin Spence, League of Local Governments.
Here.
Michael Smith, Newcastle County resident.
Here.
And Brian Goff, resident of Kent County.
Present.
And Bill Payne, resident of Sussex County.
Here.
And Mr. William Giron.
Here.
Omar Noor.
Yep.
And Lloyd Schmitz.
Present.
It's online. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else here from any of the agencies? Any additional? All right, thank you.
Great, thanks everyone. Bear with me for a second. I'm gonna try to navigate my screen here. That window open for the meeting minutes. I will. Oh, not showing on my screen, it's just on that screen. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. I'm assuming that everybody online can see my screen. If you can't, shout at me, but this, I'm just showing a copy of the meeting minutes from the last meeting in January. I hope you all had a chance to look through these briefly. Just wanted to take a moment to see if anybody had any edits or alterations to them.
Kelly, can we hit record too? Are we already recording?
We are recording. Should we take a motion to accept the minutes as reported?
So moved.
And from the floor, that was Mike Smith. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those that say yay?
Yeah. Favor aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay.
One abstain,
Abstain? Okay. Any abstain? Mr. Payne?
I wasn't there.
That's fine. Thank you. All right, I think the ayes have it then. All right, we'll add those as final and we will post that back up on the website with the notice that they are final on there. I'm just gonna try to move up on this. Why is it? I don't see it on my screen, but I'm gonna make it big here. Move that a little bit. It's totally reversed.
Yeah, you're going.
All right, technology, please. All right, let's keep it moving. So, all right, now that that's done, we have some time for a public comment. Anybody would like to speak and give some remarks about the Pedestrian Council at this point, you're welcome to do so. Give you a couple minutes each. You wanna just raise your hand online or speak up, let us know if you're there and you wanna make a mention. Once, going twice. All right, we'll keep moving. All right, so next on the agenda, we would normally have Peter Haig with Traffic Safety or Scott Neidert come and present the latest statistics about the enforcement number of pedestrian crashes that have been incurred in the past quarter. I believe they were both at a conference today, so they weren't able to make it. So I'm gonna quickly go through this and tell you what limited knowledge I have about what's been going on. So they were able to provide this slide to me or to us. So in the last quarter, we've had 3 additional fatalities in Newcastle County, 1 additional in Kent County, and 1 additional in Sussex County as well. So while there are not as many as the last quarter, they're certainly still representing a person and a family and a community that's been adversely impacted by a traffic fatality as a pedestrian. So that's why we're here today, to make sure that this number becomes 0. Some more specific details about these pedestrian fatalities. These are the locations where they occurred. So the first one was Old Baltimore Pike. The classification, when it says MNA, I think that's minor arterial area or roadway. So that's typically 4 or more lanes with speeds exceeding 45 miles per hour. And then the other locations, including DuPont Boulevard off of US 113, State Route 1, Bay Road. Those are OPAs, which means other principal arterial. Another example of that would be like Kirkwood Highway or something like that. So we have tests there, as well as on US Route 13, DuPont Highway, north of Pine Tree Road and Blackbird Landing. And then the last one was on State Route 9 in the Newcastle Avenue northbound, West Memorial Drive in that South Flemington area. One thing that we did want to share with you all that Peter and Scott have been working on is a new approach to countering all the pedestrian fatalities that we've been working on here at DelDOT. And this is called a safe systems approach, which has a vision of 0 fatalities forever being our goal. This whole safe systems is a really broad mind view that acknowledges even one death in our transportation system is fully unacceptable, and it focuses on safe mobility for all the road users out on our roadways. This is an approach that's been adopted worldwide and shared across the world, and one that we're now using at DelDOT because it's been working really well. It's also reflected in our strategic highway safety plan, and the subtitle of that is actually Towards Zero Deaths. And that is a 5-year plan or 4-year plan, excuse me, which goes from 2021 to 2025. And we just wanted to share with you that this is the approach that we're taking in the future. And the way that we're going to reach 0 deaths requires the implementation of a safe system approach, which was founded on the principles that humans make mistakes and that human bodies have a limited ability to tolerate crash impacts. In a safe system, those mistakes should never lead to death. Applying the safe system approach involves anticipating human mistakes by designing and managing road infrastructure to keep the risk of a mistake low. And when the mistake leads to a crash, the impact of the human body doesn't result in a fatality or a serious injury. Road design and management should encourage safe speeds and manipulate appropriate crash angles to reduce injury severity. And then there are 6 basic principles that form the safe system approach, which are represented in the circle here. I think that's actually should be 5. So one is that deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable, that humans make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, responsibility is shared, safety is proactive, and that redundancy is critical. Making a commitment to 0 traffic deaths means addressing all aspects of safety through the 5 safe system elements of the systems that together create a holistic approach, layers of protection for road users. Safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. So all this works together to have it so if one system fails, another one will be the backup and make sure that there is no fatality. So one way we can do this, for example, is by having traffic lights that auto delay if they detect somebody speeding up to an intersection and can tell that that car is not going to stop in time. It can delay the change of that signal. So that might be an idea that we can implement in the future here at DelDOT. We're designing our intersections differently, like the diamond intersections that you might see or the roundabouts, so there's slower speeds and less right angles as you approach them. All right, so we're over to Angie here. We'll go over a little bit of the pedestrian updates, for pedestrian website updates.
Thanks, Kelly. Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Angie Hernandez. I'm with JMT, but I'm here today helping DelDOT out with this Pedestrian Council. So today I'm going to give you a quick overview of some of the website updates that are coming. There is a link on the slide to the current website. It's not completely updated yet. There's some new materials there, but more to come. So on the website, you can find all of the meeting agendas, the minutes. That's where we post everything. Following this meeting, we're going to post the minutes, we're going to post the recording. It'll all stay up there and live kind of in perpetuity. We've also rebranded, just kind of gave the old Pedestrian Council a refresh. That's the image that's on the slide. So, you know, to describe it just a little bit for everyone, it's different types of pedestrians that are crossing within a crosswalk. The crosswalk is the shape of the state of Delaware. It says Delaware Pedestrian Council at the bottom. So this is not DelDOT's council, this is the Delaware Pedestrian Council, and that's where we have all of these different member agencies, citizen representatives. This is a group council, so we're looking to all of you to be actively engaged in this. Even though DelDOT is facilitating it, this is a council for everyone. There was also some other resources on the website. We have links to various pedestrian resources. We're going to keep kind of populating that, and if you guys ever have something that you have either from your agency or something going on in the state that you want to to put out there so that anyone interested in the Pedestrian Council might be interested in that type of topic as well. Send it our way and we can work with the website host to get that set up. We'll also put the chair's contact information on that website once we have elected a chair, so that there's always a point of contact that somebody can make. So we've been talking at you this whole time, and we're gonna stop that. We're gonna start talking with you, or at least that's the hope. So everyone that's here today, put on your thinking caps. This is where we start kind of brainstorming. So this is a brief agenda of the brainstorming that we're gonna go through. But I'm gonna kind of just give you some things to put in your mind while you're thinking about it. So within this council, there is the potential for subcommittees. So we only meet quarterly as a council, which breaks down to 4 times a year. We want to achieve a lot as part of this council. We want to work with you all to kind of chart out those goals, but achieving those goals might require this breaking out of these subcommittee groups of people that are really able to dedicate time and effort to these subcommittee initiatives. So know that that's an option that we're looking to explore today with you today a little bit. There's also an annual report that's due at the end of every year to the governor's office to explain what's been accomplished. We're gonna go through that a little bit more. We're gonna have an agency discussion. We're gonna review some of the feedback that you all gave us. Thank you for everyone that filled out the original survey that we sent out. We're gonna look for kind of overlapping areas of interest of what people said in the survey versus what we hear today from all the different member agencies. So today is a focus on member agencies and how the different agencies can work better together. So citizens, you're here, please participate in it as well, but member agencies know we really wanna hear from you all today. We also are gonna wrap up with a budget discussion. So as I mentioned, there is a potential for subcommittees. So we were brainstorming internally that public outreach and education might be a really good subcommittee. Again, none of this is set in stone. That's what we're all gonna decide, hopefully here today and continue that conversation. We also saw that local government outreach and coordination might be another potential subcommittee. So these came from the surveys and just some of the things that we've heard through some of you as members of areas of interest that we felt like would be really good breakout discussions that smaller groups might be able to tackle more efficiently than us all as one big council. I mentioned the annual report, so that does need to go in. We want to show progress, and hopefully we can show a lot of progress. This first year, there's a lot getting it up and going, but we're hoping that we can kind of find our stride, and by next year, we're really making some positive improvements. Also, budget discussion. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So again, you all were asked to fill out a council member survey at the beginning of this council formation. And what we did is we pulled some of the things out of the survey that we were hearing from you all. We asked you questions like, what do you want to learn more about? What are you passionate about? What do you think we should focus on? And there are some themes that arrive. So the words on your screen is called a word cloud. So things that are bigger were mentioned more often. So public education and outreach, that was something we heard a lot of. Again, that's why we're thinking about this subcommittee. Traffic calming and road diets. How do we slow down speeding traffic? How do we make it safer for pedestrians? We heard a lot about local government coordination. Again, maybe a potential breakout group. Folks want to hear more about the pedestrian counts and data, grants and funding opportunities, ADA accessibility, maintenance, policies and guidelines. So these are just a few of the things that we heard, but I want to put it all in front of you guys today to help kind of start getting those brain juices working for our brainstorming. So we did set out a survey to all the member agencies asking you guys to fill it out. It came as a Microsoft form and then as a PDF, so you had both options to fill it out. So John, I know you're not in the room, but if you want to go ahead and unmute, DTC was one of the only member agencies that filled out the survey. So John, the award is you get to speak and help me fill the responses. So we do appreciate it. So
I'm sorry, Angie, can you repeat that? And someone was coughing, I didn't hear you.
oh, I said you're the winner today because you actually filled in the survey. So stay unmuted because I have these questions and the answers that you gave me, but I'd prefer if you kind of speak to the room of your thoughts per question, so that you can kind of showcase with your own words. So the first question was, how does your agency work with DelDOT on pedestrian matters? So can I turn it over to you, John?
Sure, so there's lots of ways. Obviously, we're part of DelDOT and we work together, whether it's through planning, development coordination, and making comments on plans to make sure bus stops are included as developments and new things are coming in. our work on making comments through road design projects, again, to make sure we have bus stops and transit facilities added to those projects. And it's not just the bus stop itself, it's that connection from that bus stop to neighborhoods or businesses or any part of that. And then, you know, in a bus stop on one side of the street doesn't operate by itself. It needs typically a corresponding companion bus stop on the other side of the road. So making sure our customers can access from one side of the road to the other side is crucial for us. So we do a lot of coordination that way from our planning and facilities team with various groups in DelDOT.
Thanks, John. So any questions in the room or online about anything John just said, or anything that anyone wants him to expand on? Hearing none. So John, the next question was, what are your biggest projects or programs that affect pedestrians? And, you know, positive and negative. Tell us the good, the bad, the ugly.
So typically through standalone projects, we're able to accomplish stuff like the new Claymont train station. We're able to, you know, make the station accessible in many ways, connect to the bike and pedestrian networks in the area, and continue to make connections that way. Our biggest challenge is our bus stops throughout the state, where we have a disconnected pedestrian network. So you might have segments of sidewalks and paths constructed, but they don't continue everywhere. They don't continue back into neighborhoods. They don't continue all the way through developments. I mean, and some of it's not just residential, it's corporate. You can go through like corporate commons in Newcastle County. It doesn't have a lot of pedestrian network, but there's a lot of pedestrians, our bus customers going there. So our biggest things are trying to get through that and fund and come through it in a smart way. How do we tackle the years and years of it not being a priority to get it to be a priority for everybody?
John, you jumped right ahead, which is great. So I guess the last question here is, how can your agency, DART, DTC, collaborate with the Pedestrian Council? How do you see your agency collaborating with the council, and what kind of shared initiatives do you think there are?
I think the council can help us prioritize where we need to make these investments. Understanding through data, whether it's the accident data that was shared at the beginning of the meeting, understanding the different agencies, whether they're land use agencies or they're citizens, understanding where we need to make that investment and where we need to prioritize what we're doing. I think the PEG Council can really help us set a good path forward.
So I'll pause again for any questions in the room or online about anything John's brought up. Any other ideas that come to mind for transit connections? Yeah, go ahead.
How do
sorry.
you,
Mr. Payne,
okay.
I'm sorry, and if anybody in the room or online, just for the minutes, if you can just identify yourself, that'll make it a lot easier. So thank you.
William Payne, how do you suggest changes or point out areas that might be problems in the future? Who do you contact?
Relative to transit areas that are?
Well, there's one section on Route 1 at Walmart. The bus stop's in the middle of the block. There happens to be an island in the front of the street. People are crossing from the bus stop to the island to Walmart and not going to the corner. That bus stop I think should be closer to a corner. Or you need some fencing there. I'm not sure. So these are just, and another main problem, I live out farther from the main Route 1. A lot of developments do not connect to the bus routes. That needs a brief discussion later.
John, did you catch all of that?
I did. So I understand the first part is in that Route 1 coastal community that between Lewis and Rehoboth, the length between the traffic lights and pedestrian crossings present challenges to where we put our bus stops. And we need some thoughtful discussion on, are there things we can do to prevent mid-block crossings? Or are there things we can do to, improve that network? And, whether this council makes some recommendations or we go to, I don't know if this would fall under the 5-point study or one of those things that, those are things we got to look at and make better decisions on. And we need some feedback on what, the balance between proximity to where people want to go and the safety of where we put these stops is important. And then, we're working, as you get into some of these rural and suburban communities outside the corridors, the buses can't go everywhere. So we've been rolling out some microtransit services and other things that might help fill in those gaps. But in the absence of that, this is where I mentioned we got to make an investment on making sure everywhere is connected by for non-motorized transportation. So we don't put people in harm's way, and they can get about without relying on a car.
Thanks, John. Any other questions in the room? Go ahead, Kelly.
I'll just share one thing that I discussed with John earlier is that he has this, captive audience of customers that are coming in and using the DART and the SEPTA trains and all those things. And they would be great folks to reach out to with any of our public outreach and engagement things that we want to do with this campaign. So I think John and DART will be really good partners to work with to customize things for some of the folks that are using those systems and are walking to those systems. I got an opportunity to ride on one of the newest buses that they have coming out, and they have TVs within them that can run, ads and safety messages about how to walk safely on some of our roadways. We could say, wear reflective materials, stay on the sidewalk, whatever message that we want to put out there. So I just want to plug that idea into folks as well. We have these great bus stops with posters that we can put up. So there's other ideas out there that we can get creative with too.
All right, John, I'll take you off the hot seat. Thank you again I knew you'd be willing to just jump right in. We're gonna flip it now to all the other member agencies. So we threw everyone here on the screen, for everyone's benefit to see all of the different agencies that are here. Don't squander this opportunity. This is a focus area where we can all sit down, focus on this one really important issue and work together to solve it. So that's what this committee is here for. It's for us to all collaborate and hopefully find some solutions forward that we might not have found if we were all working in our own silos. So I'm actually going to go back to my seat because what we're going to do is I want to hear the member agencies. I'm looking for you guys to give input. If you're on the council but not a member agency, I'm looking for you to ask questions or add to the conversation as well. So this is supposed to be an interactive discussion. What we're going to do, since we have some folks virtual and some in the room, I'm going to actually just type live on my screen. Give me a second to get it all set up. But we're going to use the screen kind of as a whiteboard. If we were all here in person, we'd have a flip chart and just be writing some high level ideas. So give me just 1 second to transition over here. And then member agencies, start thinking about the first question.
And this is Pam, and just to reiterate, I mean, like what Kelly and Angie has said is that, Deldat is the facilitator. We do all of the background work and such, and we are a partner as well. But we are really looking to information share, knowledge share. I'm sure all of our member agencies are doing a lot of great work with pedestrians and safety and connections and doing shared use paths and sidewalks, or we know that DelDOT has the majority of building the infrastructure as well as developers, but we really would like to hear from all of you guys as being experts to see what things we can do for outreach, what we can do to just help the pedestrian infrastructure and network as well as safety and outreach. So we are, this is your council as, and just to keep in the back of your mind, we do have to have that annual report. So it's very important that, our legislators are gonna look to the annual report to see what the progress has been. So just to keep it in mind, we have to have something in the report.
We're trying to stop sharing the screen so we can share Angie's screen, and I don't know how to do that, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, as part of the webinar, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, if you can type from that screen, I think that might be the best. But.
Sure.
So, you know, just to be, so we are gonna have a few questions, so just to kind of open it up, and we can take some like notes now, but before we actually start typing. But does anybody want us to start it off on who you are, what agency you work for, and what role do you play in pedestrian safety and or connections? And I will, if I have to, I will call on you if you need me, since there,
I saw half a hand raised.
Sharon, hi.
I'll start, Pam.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sharon.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So I'm the director for the Office of Highway Safety, working for Secretary McQueen and Safety and Homeland Security. I've been there about 10 months now, and am a native Delawarean, born and raised actually here in Kent County, but commuted to DC for 25 years for work, where I was with the National Transportation Safety Board. So one of the ways that highway safety works is through NHTSA's grant funding. We specifically have what's called Section 405 funding for enforcement, working with our law enforcement partners, and also working with communications, media, strategy, outreach. So we're doing one thing in particular right now is we're working with at the county level with the emergency medical community, as well as the chair of the Chiefs Council for that county, in asking them for their input on where they see specific problem areas. We lead that a little bit by talking about pedestrians is one thing, but speed, DUI, those kind of things. And then to further say, if you could create a communication strategy to the population that you serve, who would you target? How would you go about that? How do you think, we can best reach vulnerable populations and those communities that are often underserved? And so we spend a good bit of time in the pedestrian area, specifically talking about behavioral change. But one of the things that I'd like to begin, I feel like I keep sort of digging myself out of a hole, catching up over there, and learning the new technology, which is wholly different than many systems that I did use before. But in the safe systems approach, which I've worked in for many years, my portfolio primarily in NTSB was in the aviation world, which adopted safe systems quite some time ago, in an attempt to reach zero fatalities in the commercial fleet. But one of the things that I would like to do is to better understand the root cause. And Delaware, there's small numbers. So you see, I don't need to diminish the importance of that at all, but the numbers are such that we could really drill down to each of those fatalities. I find myself, before we go kind of launching into, we should change this and change that, like, who are those 9 or 10 people so far? Do we know anything more about the cause? You hear a lot of conversation about homeless populations and, the bus stops around large commercial areas, but what do we know about that? And not that we should ignore other risk factors, but should we start there or could we start there with understanding that? And so I'm gonna try to spend some time doing that in the Office of Highway Safety. But one of the other things too, for me is not just the fatals, because to me, fatals is looking in your rearview mirror. I'd like to understand more about serious crashes. Gosh, wouldn't it be nice if we knew about near misses, right? Where something occurred and no one was injured, but we could learn from it. And I find myself wanting to know if there's a better way for us to use the data that's there. And there's great data sets. But the question for me is, you know, as a state, is there a way for us to better predict through understanding both near misses? I don't even know if you can get to that or not. Near miss is an aviation term, sorry. And it's like, you know, when they almost collide on the runway. So can we learn more about that so that we can begin to target our resources to the known risk population? You know, as soon as you see a fatality where there's a homeless person, everybody says to me, you should start a campaign to communicate with the homeless. Well, that's 1 out of 9 or 10. You know, are there more? Is that truly a population? So I don't know if a data committee makes sense. I'm not sure. Or, you know, some kind of a committee to look further at that data, to come back to the larger council. It has to be somebody that's way smarter than me with data that would be helping us with that. But, you know, so we could be good consumers of the data in order to know where we should target our funding and our time and, you know, those kind of things. So I'll stop talking now, but that's just my thinking and some of the things I would like to do in the Highway Safety Office, not just with pedestrian issues, but, you know, in other areas too, like what do we know about the root cause? And if we know more about that, can we be better targeting our resources?
Yeah, great. Thank you. That was great. Not only for sharing what you're currently doing now, but also some, I mean, we focus and talk about pedestrians a lot, but it's so great to be able to kind of information share and bat things off of, and what, you know, what you're hearing and seeing from other agencies will only help for the good of the group.
I mean, you hear a lot anecdotally about that part, but I haven't had a chance to dig around enough to really get myself comfortable with what the data is telling us.
Sure, sure.
And
And
so,
I know that there are, you know, some limitations, and probably Scott and Pete from our traffic section can explain once, and when we can bring them back, they can explain a little bit more about what we can and can't know about the certain. And I know obviously for serious or fatalities, the investigation seems to be a lot longer, but there might be even, who knows, there might be even recommendations that the council can make to the police to say, you know, like, do we know where they were coming from? Do we know, you know, has there been a cycle of this kind of behavior, blah, blah. So.
and we do have funding available through NHTSA for traffic records. So if there was information not available that would be helpful to the council, we could potentially make a recommendation to do something to gather additional information. If there's something that the council would like to see that's not currently there, we could use funding to improve Delaware's traffic records. So those are all possibilities, longer term solutions, but things that I think could be a possibility in that process. So
I'll just add on to a little bit of what Pam was saying with the security of the data. So in Delaware, to be able to view kind of the full crash data, and this is even me as a consultant, I know this, we have to get fingerprinted at the police station, and there's a clearance process that we have to go through to even be able to access crash data to use as part of our studies. So it is secure. So your comment about kind of having a different group work on it, you could probably get a lot better access and review of the data than having this council, because not everyone in this council, I'm assuming, would go and get fingerprinted and get cleared for the clearances. So, and just want to throw that out there.
If we're going to be doing it for some of the other areas that highway safety is looking at from a behavioral standpoint, certainly knowing what this council might want to know more about in terms of pedestrian, we could include that. But that's on my goals, on my list of goals to get more defined in terms of what that root cause is.
I think that's something worth definitely the continued conversation on. But that is how I would see it, that if there could be a separate group that's clear to look at this data, then they could come back to council and say, we've had this many in this area of them, here's some interesting facts about it. Because like you said, you don't know the whole story until you really dive in. And then you're at the mercy of the clarity of the police reports, how much information they have. And a lot of that is just time of the incident, of what was observed, what was reported to them, or what they saw themselves. So then those life details of peeling back the person, I think that's a different process. So again, probably something better suited to like a small, group. And I think Office of Highway Safety probably has the right, the right credentials and quals to figure that.
And then with a safe systems approach, you're really looking at every piece of that, including the critical care. What kind of care did they receive post crash? And are there things about pedestrian crashes that are unique with regard to the requirements for post crash care? So it's a big undertaking, but certainly a place to start perhaps.
Yeah, and not to dwell too much on this, but I did want to make a point that as part of the pedestrian action plan, one of our team members, Maria, she actually rode the DART bus network on certain lines that had a lot of pedestrians. And I think doing some of those grassroots efforts to really ask people how what do you think about the pedestrian network? And if Maria wants to talk a little bit more about it, but that may also be, I know we did that as part of the action plan, but if we do have a committee that is more about data and stuff, we could maybe have a broader action plan of reaching out to, because it's one thing trying to do surveys and sending things out, but Maria was actually had a captive audience on the bus. They couldn't run away from her. And they, and she's a very nice person. So I think that they were open to speaking to her about things. So we could also mention, if the council wants a little bit more information on that, we could always kind of dive into that deeper at the next meeting.
So I'm just going to show you guys all four of the questions, and then other member agencies definitely jump in. So again, we want to hear about how you work with DelDOT on pedestrian matters, your biggest projects and programs regarding pedestrians, your biggest challenge that you see for people walking in the state, and then how we can collaborate. And really how can we collaborate is where we wanna focus on. So thank you, Sharon, for volunteering. You gave some good input and some good potential items for consideration, so.
Mr. Payne had his hand up.
Oh,
I'm sorry to keep
Mr.
cutting
Payne.
in, but one of the points that I think might be, could be collected, were how far the accident was for a crosswalk, and whether the crosswalk is 2 sides, 3 sides, or 4 sides. They seem to be building a lot 2 and 3, and you gotta walk all the way around. Instead of crossing 1 street, you gotta do 3 streets.
Oh, great.
And I'm wondering if that's, if we should be some surveys, say about 1 in Rehoboth. I think they need more crosswalk. At one time, DelDOT did recommend more crosswalks. I think because the population is growing more, we should be looking at crosswalks there on Mount One, a survey maybe more.
Thank you.
anybody online, we don't want you guys to feel left out. Let's have a brave volunteer from online. All right, I see a hand raised. I'm sorry, I can't see your name, so go
All right,
ahead.
I'm Carol Schrader. And I'm with State Council for Persons with Disabilities. So just want to make sure we remember that when we're talking about crosswalks and safety of our pedestrians, we consider our wheelchair users. So a crosswalk is of very little use to us if there's not also a cutout in the sidewalk. We've been doing some work with DelDOT concerning this, but I want to, Benjamin and I were super excited to be able to be part of this discussion because we want to make sure we keep that in the forefront of our minds. That when we're talking about pedestrians, some of us roll. So we don't want, we just want to make sure we're keeping that in the front.
Carol?
Yeah.
We've got Mr. Tom Nickel. I don't know if you want to make any remarks regarding how we design our crosswalks for ADA accessibility.
Currently, the department designs every crosswalk to be accessible, and we have a transition plan which is addressing the backlog of inventory of not accessible pedestrian facilities, and we are making progress. I think we're knocking off non-accessible curb ramps. We've taken down about 40% of non-accessible curb ramps and eliminated more than 30% of barrier curbs at crosswalks.
It's making progress, but it is a small state, but there's a lot to maintain.
Right.
And you're working kind of, trying to catch up while also staying caught up. It's a big process.
It
So
is a big process.
a lot of those crosswalks are caught during any kind of project, rehab, renovation, projects that come through big and small, and every effort's made to make corridors as accessible as possible. So anyone else from online? I think, see Lloyd, you have your hand raised.
I'm a resident of Sussex County, and I think Bill Payne brought up a couple of good points as it relates to intersections that are able to be crossed by pedestrians.
Lloyd, it's real. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear. It's very muffled. I don't know if you're far from your microphone. We can hear you. It's just not clear. We can't make out what you're saying.
Okay, is this better?
That's a little better.
Basically, we need more crosswalks and more accessible intersections. A mile apart is not acceptable. And even the bus stop being a mile apart or longer is too excessive for people to go out of the way. That's it.
Okay, Lloyd, it's Pam. Just so we're clear, I think I heard, so accessible intersections, bus stops and crosswalks, like being more than a mile away is unacceptable. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Lloyd didn't say this, but when we talk about accessible crosswalks and ped signals, hopefully we're addressing the audio function for the visually impaired.
That would be good, John, but then we have a problem with impeding traffic flow. So we need to strike a balance for pedestrians and motor vehicles so that we don't back up the vehicles beyond where they need to be backed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, pedestrian signals do affect the traffic signals.
See another hand up, but again, I'm missing the name. This Zoom is really killing me today. I think that's fine. Thank you.
Michael Smith, a Newcastle County resident. Yeah, to bounce off what Carol and Lloyd and John were talking about, I think something that I saw at least in the previous edition of this committee is about having a built environment subcommittee. Talking about all these issues, whether it be crosswalks, whether it be bus stops, whether it be kind of what are they called, Strode, right? Where we have these kind of entrances and exits off of major roads like Kirkwood Highway and Old Baltimore Pike and the like. Yeah, I think a built environment subcommittee could look really well on all these issues, and try to see how we can, use our concrete and asphalt to, try to reduce pedestrian accidents as well, and also just not even reduce accidents, but also make, one of the other parts of this committee or this council is to make, walking, comfortable and convenient. Making sure that we have low stress pathways for people to go and actually, ride their bike or, walk or go to the bus or get groceries. I think is very important. Just because it's not just about crashes. The crashes are very important and it's probably our top priority, but at the same time, it's also about making sure that we increase the number of people who are walking, because right now it seems like our built environment basically doesn't allow you to walk anywhere more than a quarter mile.
Thank you. Great ideas. Who else wants to chime in?
I can't see the chat, so I don't know if anybody put anything in the chat. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can
Yes.
chime in.
Brian, yes, hi.
So Brian Goff, I'm not with an agency, but I'm a resident of Kent County and I'm representing Chesapeake Utilities on the business sector. So we work with DelDOT on a number of things, but on the pedestrian, not really, but specifically a couple years ago, we partnered with DelDOT on a study for Bay Road here for pedestrians. I think initially is when we opened our new facility across the way, the idea was to be able to get employees from over here safely onto this side of Bay Road. And my understanding of the study and what I've read, it morphed into something much greater, which would allow, it looked into having a continuous pedestrian pathway all the way through to downtown Dover and potentially all the way to Deltec. So it would create definitely a more accessible urban environment. It would promote pedestrian friendly policy. So I know there was a big study, which I believe we partnered with DelDOT.
Well, DelDOT and I think it was the Dover Kent MPO.
Yes, exactly, yes. So I know there was a number of different, so that's specifically how we've kind of partnered or worked with DelDOT a little bit.
Yeah,
on
I
some
mean,
pedestrian.
any of those ideas, especially of big economic drivers, like big places where there are a lot of people that are working and stuff. I mean, a lot of them do want to walk to even certain things. They want to walk to work. They want to walk on their lunch break. So all of that was a great partnership to be able to hear from those grassroots businesses and actually get a study done, because a lot of the projects that get put into the capital transportation plan or get put into the bike ped network, the bike ped project, program comes out of those types of studies. So that is like Mike had said about the built environment, that's a great example. And we want to see more of those things, because as good as we are of trying to figure out where these connections should be, the people that are working and residing in those areas, we want to hear from, so.
Particularly as more businesses now, it was just
Absolutely.
us, now you have Delaware Solid Waste Authority, I believe Bay Health is doing a
Yeah, and you're
a big addition to
kind of
the Blue Hand Mall.
over,
So like I said, initially, that was the purpose we got into, but then when we got into it, we realized this whole area could benefit,
able to.
and we're definitely big on promoting pedestrian friendly policies. We have a sustainability department now, and even enhancing, the pedestrian walkways. We've started to develop benches for pedestrians made out of recycled pipe, which, I think right now we have, 5 to 7 that we're willing to donate. And so that may be another topic that, what comes out of this, that we have some things that we're, instead of throwing the old pipe away, we're recycling and making benches for pedestrians. So that's something that we'd be willing to, where they're needed, we could donate them,
Oh, awesome. That's great.
I'll write that down.
Yes. Do we have any back there? Just partnering.
Yeah, I think there's 2 levels of looking at where we can implement pedestrian friendly practices, both retrofitting our old infrastructure and then putting it in place so we know we definitely do it in the future with new things going on, so, yeah.
So I did want to ask a question, because we heard about local land use coordination, local government coordination. So I know not all of our local government representatives are on the call, but I think county might be on, or is there any local government representatives that could kind of chime in to how we could work together on that local effort coordination? We've talked a lot about state level stuff, but I kind of want to hear from some of the local municipalities, if anyone online room.
I can speak to that. This is Kevin Spence, the Executive Director of the Delaware League of Local Government. And although I'm not an agency that would be directly involved with any pedestrian activity, I can surely help out this body with getting once we have some initiatives outlined, and I realize we're just getting started here, but I'm happy to get any type of missive, any type of notification, any publicity out using my listserv, and I have like all mayors and town managers and whatnot, so I would be really happy to get any type of messages through to on a local government level.
Great. Do you, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm curious and I can't help it. Do you kind of have off the top of your mind, what are the challenges that you're hearing from the local governments that you interact with? What are they saying they could really use help with from a pedestrian perspective? Like, are there themes that you're seeing across different local governments? What's the biggest challenge that they bring to you?
And not to shift the conversation, but probably the Kent Dover MPO would be more in tune with that. And they're also in my same building, so I work with them, so they might be able to speak to that better. I know that there, as far as Sussex is concerned, so that we're a statewide organization, but I know about there's connectivity with the bike trail and bringing that to Georgetown. I know that that's something that's a priority. But I'm not so familiar with any type of pedestrian. I'm dealing mostly with legislation, and connecting the local governments on a federal level to our federal delegates' offices for things of that nature. But I will keep my ear to the ground, and I'm happy to report back to this body of anything that I find out about any transportation specific or pedestrian concerns.
Well, I've been flipping back and forth trying to take notes. We do have this all recorded, so we'll have more official notes.
That's okay. I can recap. I don't have any specific information concerning pedestrians specifically, but I will keep my ear to the ground and report back to this body with anything that I learn. And again, just to reiterate, I'm happy to get out any messages to our listserv, announcements of meetings, any type of grant opportunities, any type of publicity you need to get to mayors and town managers on a local level. I'm happy to do so on the behalf of the league.
Great, thank you. I think we had a hand in the room. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. I'm not sure whether this is a point to bring it up or not, but one of the things is land use in the counties is basically the pathways that the developments put in, where they put the developments in, and they're not being connected. You have maybe 100 foot, and then the side of the development has no pathway. The next one would put in a 200 foot, or they don't put it in the back of the development. So I think this is something that the county governments need to come in somehow with a committee to help change this so that you could connect these pathways between the communities, which then connect it to like the Georgetown Lewis bike trail or just to the bus stops. But right now, a developer can go in and buy a farm. He develops half of it, he puts his pathway in front of it, and then he sells it off as minor developments, 4 lots at a time, and they don't have to put anything in. There's no connectivity there.
Sure.
I think it's something that needs to be brought up with the government representatives for land use.
Sure, and again, this is Pam. Development coordination, the section that gives access to developers is under me. And just briefly, I can speak a little bit to it, but I think it's a much bigger picture is that. So as part of our development coordination manual, depending what area the development is being done, they are required to build this, either a sidewalk or a shared use path along their frontage. But they are not, being that they don't own any other properties, we can only make them do it like on their property. So I know that it looks very piecemeal, but that's what development coordination is, a piecemeal type of section in terms of that infrastructure. So eventually there will be connections that, like, once one farm develops, just say one farm develops and maybe 200 feet down the road, a second farm develops. So they have to build their part, that this farm has to build their part. Then what we can do as DelDOT is have a project to connect those two sections. So we know that it's not ideal, but making the developer build that infrastructure is only gonna help the, like, overall. But I totally get that when you're driving or walking down the road, it like looks real weird and people are like, why did you put that there? Well, we're just trying to do as much as we can on many facets, many angles, to build as much infrastructure as we can. But you made a great point as to interconnections of developments, not only, so there, that is specifically a county requirement. So Newcastle, they require interconnections. We as a department always encourage interconnections, but that requirement is a county thing. And I think we have been talking a lot to the south, sorry, on requiring that for a land use thing. And we are making strides in that, but like like Mike had said, that low stress connections of like inside development. So if so you don't even have to go out on to the actual roadway, but you can get to wherever you're going to get to through developments. That would, we want that to be the focus. So for instance, as the Pedestrian Council, if after discussions and talks, if there are official policy recommendations that the council wants to make to local land use agencies, we could officially do a request to that agency. And in my mind, it would be more clout than like just one person saying it. So that's a great point. I know that was a really long
And that
answer.
could also be something that we form a subcommittee around, is influencing
Policy and-
policy and
yeah.
legislation. So that could be another thing that we dive into as well with this council.
I understand what you're saying.
Mhm.
But what you said and what I interpret what you said is not happening. The developer on the corner would take two lots, 200 foot, and pave that and put this, a walkway and bikeway in for 200 foot. 1,000 foot on the other road, nothing's happening. A developer would take a farmland and a 1,000 foot frontage on the road, take 500 foot for his development, and then sell the other 500 foot off in 4 lot developments,
And they are required,
and they're
yes,
not required to do
I
anything.
get that.
And, or they put it in the front, but there's a street in the back, there's no walkway in the back to connect developments that develop on there.
Agreed, that's a great point, because right now, with that small of a development, if it's under 4 lots, they're not required to put in sidewalk.
So anybody can divide a whole property up for 4 lots, 4 lots, 4 lots, 4 lots. You have no sidewalk.
They can be very smart people, those developers, yeah, they kind of, yeah,
So I-
but
that's
that
why I
is a
think that
great
you-
point, like, if we do wanna change that, then that can absolutely be a recommendation.
Yeah, I think that should be changed, and I think that needs to be more of the county, because this is land use, we
Yeah.
need the county representatives to,
Yeah, exactly.
on this.
All right, I see, Michael, you've got your hand up.
But bounce off that great conversation there. I think having, not to reiterate, I guess, the last edition's names, but like a legislation and policy committee would be great, to, like make recommendations. County council members, recommendations to government agencies that maybe aren't represented in this council, or at least not the representatives that are on the council. State legislators, I think, are incredibly important. I think the discussion about new development is particularly interesting. I did not know the fact about multi-use path requirements for new developments. I guess it makes a lot more sense now that I think about what I've seen recently. But yeah, what I hear a lot about from people in neighborhoods is most of the walking people do, unfortunately, because of our built infrastructure, is kind of around their cul-de-sac or around the few blocks that they live in. And so making sure that those residential streets, which I know is even a further level down of government than what we were talking about earlier, but having some kind of discussion with county council members like, hey, if there's gonna be a new development, maybe you require bump outs or speed bumps or raised pedestrian crosswalks, whatever the good stuff is that makes it so that specifically young people, old people, people walking their dog, right, can feel comfortable and safe going around their neighborhood, or going in between neighborhoods as well. So yeah, I think legislation and policy would be really helpful, because not only are we tasked with writing this report and reviewing these fatalities, we're also kind of tasked with sending out that information and advice to other people, including, I'm assuming, some legislators, whether it be the county or state level or federal level if need be.
Thank you.
Anything else before we move on? Any other ideas, thoughts to share with the group?
Okay. Well, if you do think of anything else, please feel to reach out and email me or give me a call, and I can jot down some notes if you don't feel like writing them. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Kane.
I thought you were discussing with different groups, so I didn't bring it up before. But PRORAG, public right away, this was was passed in September, published in October in the Federal Register. Del is still putting the mailbox 3 foot in from the edge of the sidewalk in the center of it rather than 4 foot under the new guidelines. And I'm hoping that maybe somebody can update us on what Del is doing to bring the Del regulations into PRORAG, the new PRORAG.
Tom, do you wanna?
So PROAG has been published in the Federal Register. It has not been picked up by any federal agency as a regulation. So it's not enforceable at this point.
But just because it's not enforceable, why aren't Del
So the department
working
has,
towards it to help people walk?
so the department has adopted standards for accessibility. And the department's standards for accessibility is a minimum width of 4 feet wide. And there's a permitted protrusion that's allowed into that 4 foot area. So there's an allowance to mount a mailbox on
Under the
a-
state, under the old state regulation,
under the current.
under PRORAG, it says 4 foot,
So PROAG says you need a minimum 4 foot width,
right? Now, the minimum,
4 foot width.
right, not 3.
And you're allowed to have a post or pylon mounted object that can protrude.
No,
into-
not under state, not under the PRORAG.
I don't want to have a
Yeah, I
debate
know,
in front of
this
this
is
group
something
because,
I disagree with and stuff.
okay. The state does have its own standards that have been reviewed by Federal Highway Administration. And we follow our standards for construction and installation.
It's out of date.
Now, it's current.
No, it's been published and that's the regulation. It's the best building standards you have.
You said it was not adopted by the federal government yet. Can you say if that's like something that would
So
happen?
I was
or-
in DC last week at the
Okay.
Department of Transportation at a Civil Rights Conference. And just because it's been published in the Federal Registry does not mean it's an official standard.
Okay.
It has to be picked up by the Department of Justice in this case to be promulgated as a regulation.
Okay.
And Department of Justice has not picked it up. If you want it picked up as a regulation, I would encourage you to reach
I would like
out
the
to your.
state, I would like the state to do it.
The
state should be doing it.
state has adopted standards.
But
They're published,
outdated.
they're on our website.
I know it was outdated. I've been to many arguments, many hours with the engineers on that before it was adopted. I understand.
I'll be more than willing to spend some
I
time and, you know,
understand what
show
you're
you what
talking
our
about.
standards are and compare them to what current PROAC, the published version of PROAC, and you'll see that our standards mirror what they say.
I think that'd be great. So
Yep.
if you can follow up.
Sure.
Even with the group, just share that, because I know probably all of you aren't as in the weeds with ADA as Tom and some others in the room are, but it,
Now, I understand what he's saying, but I'm just saying, DelDOT should be working on it because it has been published.
Yeah.
There should be some group started working on that. So
I
that,
think that's what
it's
Tom
not
wants
2
to
years from now
share
that
is the
takes
ProAg
place.
right next to DelDOT standards, so you can compare and contrast
I
any
know,
differences.
I
It is,
understand.
Mr. Payne, it is on our radar screen to go back and look at the DelDOT standard compared to where PROAG is as a published document.
And you followed the ProAg even before it was published when
Correct.
developing the DelDOT standards. So ProAg, although it was just officially published, has been around decades.
PROAG was published in 2013.
ProAg was on the
Comment.
recommendation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the article, the law, or whatever it was passed, it says it's the recommendation of certain items. It's been published now as the Federal Register.
Yeah, it's just not enforceable yet. It's just part of that procedural step for it. So again, for everyone's benefit in the room, that's a little bit of the background of what's kind of going on in the ADA world right now. It's been a very interesting kind of development over the last, since 1990, the Civil Rights Act came in. So it is a changing environment, trying to keep up with the changes. But when there isn't the legal requirement, then you're in this in-between, we're still in the in-between. Everyone wants to be at the end, we are not at the end still, we're at the in-between. So anyone else online, I think we're gonna wrap up the open discussion, but wanted to give everyone online just a last chance for conversation.
Well, maybe this is a subject for one of our subcommittees to pursue for legislation in the future.
Great idea. Adding it, it's here, it's in yellow text against white, so you can't see it, but again, these aren't the official notes.
Hold on for just 1 second, because doesn't look like the mouse is working. Yeah.
Now we have a name for another subcommittee.
Right. Wait, do we see? Maybe not, okay. I'm trying to go back.
Like, how long have we been doing these virtual things, and
It's just not getting any better. Doesn't seem like it's getting any better. Oh, wait, I see it. Okay. All right. Now, wait, how do it's not doing it. Just 1 sec. We're just gonna be just 1 second here.
to slideshow and say view. Just this place.
Oh, here we go. Okay, that's next. Yeah. Say thank you. No, it's not at the end. We're close to the end, but it's not the end yet. Okay, there you go.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so sorry for that rough transition there, but we're gonna keep going. Okay, so now that we had some of our priorities come out and thought about here, I do want to let you all know that we do have a bit of a budget to spend for the Pedestrian Council. And we do have a short time to spend it in as well. So for our 2024 budget, this was set up at the establishment of the Delaware Pedestrian Council. So last fiscal year, we were anticipating that we were going to get started. We didn't start with our first meeting until January, so now we're kind of trying to play catch up on using the budget that we do have. So I want to let you all know that we do have about $14,000 in the budget to spend at this point for whatever priorities we would like to spend it on. These funds are to be spent by June 15th, which really means we need to have our invoices processed by the end of May to get all that information in so the county can process everything and to make sure it's hunky-dory. So because we don't have a lot of time to spend that in, and our next council meeting won't be until the middle of the summer, probably in July, we don't have time to get back together to really have a lot of time to think about what we want to spend that money on. But we don't want to like lose that money that we already have in the pot. So our staff, got together and kind of talked about some suggestions of what we could use that for at this point. And we do have a new safety awareness campaign that we're coming out with at DelDOT. This is going right off of that policy for the safe systems approach that I described earlier that is going towards zero fatalities on our roadways. So we have new logos and features and messages going out to the public from DelDOT itself to talk to all of our roadway users that we are trying to get to zero deaths and to be Delaware, so we can get to that and become a hero towards zero. And they've put some artwork on our Wally character and made this really catchy slogan and really great graphics that we can use for that. So some of the emphasis areas, one of them is pedestrian safety. So we would like to suggest as our staff that we put some of the budget, to some of the outreach materials that we might be able to purchase for this campaign. And Pam is going to be our van on right. If you can see her in the room here, we have a lovely retro reflective bag that reflects more light than wearing white alone. We also have, for example, some materials that light up in the dark. If you want to wear these, they're supposed to light up as you're walking at night. I think these are all some flashlights. So this is just an example of things that we buy to give out to the public as we're interacting with them in some of our public engagement, tablings and events that we attend with the public, just so folks have these, when they're walking around the streets or getting to the bus stops. We've given these out at some of our bus terminals, so as people are getting on the bus to go to their jobs or go home, they're getting this packet of a bag with all these things in it and some materials to talk about how you can be seen better when you wear retroreflective materials and tips for how to be safe walking around. So that's something that I'd like to suggest that we spend it on. And also just to give you a preview of what we have for our next fiscal year, we do have about $20,000 to spend on any supplies that we would like to support our efforts and goals that we do have as a council. We do have about $1,000 if you need to be reimbursed for any travel, your gas, any bus, tickets that you buy to get here. But some other suggestions would be maybe next year, because we don't have time right now, is to spend this on trainings, maybe bringing in speakers or training other folks, hosting a workshop for some of like our local government officials about how to do better about promoting pedestrian safety in some of their projects, going to local HOAs or community organizations to say, hey, this is how you can encourage your residents or community members to be safer when they're walking around, and then give out giveaways of those things. We could also spend this, to go do some of those site visits, like Pam was giving the example of Maria going out and riding the bus. Maybe we could do a bus tour ourselves and go out and see what the conditions are on the street and how the pedestrian network works into the bus routes. And then if you all have other ideas too, we can certainly talk about those. I think that we were coming to kind of like a almost consensus that we might want to have a subcommittee to work on pedestrian safety education and outreach. So maybe that's something that, that committee could take up, is developing, ideas for what to spend it on to get it out to the public. And then to look even further to the future, our 2026 budget will be very similar to the 2025 one at this point right now. So about another $20,000 to spend, and we could, start gearing up for what we want to spend that on, or, say we come up with some amazing ideas, I don't know, a scholarship program for the most safe kid at high school or something like that. We can certainly float that idea to our leadership as well. So I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah, and,
Yeah, go
and,
ahead.
sorry, I forgot for the uses as well, I know with the bike council, they actually have a grant program that they do, so they, have applications, and if there's a municipalities like want to build some sort of infrastructure in their town for bike safety, they can, there's actually a working group for the bike council that like reviews the applications and votes on it and everything, and the council awards these grants to them. So that may also be a longer term goal, and that could also be done by, the council requesting more funds, for that. So just to keep in mind, so.
So I'd like to pitch that out to the group. Does anybody have any feedback or thoughts right away that you want to share with us about your spending allowance?
I can provide bus tours.
Yay, thank you, John. Are you gonna charge us $13,700?
Michael has his hand up too.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, something that, I came into this meeting thinking about, I don't know how financing would work on it, because it could theoretically be someone who's already employed by the state or a county. But, reviewing the cycle for intersections to prevent speeding, I think it's really interesting. I know we have a lot of complex algorithms to try to determine how to, reduce the amount of waiting time for cars. And I think maybe doing a little study, seeing like, oh, how would, making it, instead of being about reducing waiting, what about reducing speeding opportunities? There's a great paper. I know Paul Moser knows the author. I don't remember what the author's name is right now, but presumably if we could maybe get someone who works in the state has the information, or get a consultant potentially to do a review of how that could operate on, 1340 Route 2, Coastal Highway, any of those, even just one of them really would be interesting. I feel like a lot of these pedestrian fatalities, as we saw earlier on the quarterly slide, right? We're talking about like usually roads that are between 30 to 55 miles per hour, and so we're talking about like these kind of like middling stroads, not highway, not a street. And so I think maybe looking at those intersection cycles, and playing around with them a little bit could be something to look into. I have absolutely no idea how much that would cost, so maybe this would be better for next year. But it's something I would like to address, because I think most of these issues are going to be talking about the drivers that cause the accidents, the pedestrians, and not really the other way around, right? Like I love having my yellow vest when I ride my bike, but at the end of the day, like my yellow vest does nothing when like someone is looking at their phone versus looking at the phone. And I think there's could be some ways to prevent that speeding opportunities, prevent distracted driving, that could be useful for this budget as well.
That's a great idea. I do think there is a bit of a higher price tag on it when we do have consultant work being done, but maybe that's something we can, make a recommendation to DelDOT to do,
Exactly.
the council. So that could come from a different budget in this pot perhaps too.
Yeah, that could be a recommendation. A recommendation, since we do have more leeway on that side. Like, so this is for operating funds. That's why Kelly had said is that that money is gone like every year at the start of the fiscal. So that's why we had thought, and we kind of want to officially put that out to the council for that 13,000 is like everybody, being that it needs to really be processed by the end of the month in May, is everybody kind of on board with just those safety supplies for that, and then maybe at the next one, we can set the meeting in July, we can set the budget for 25, so.
Mr. Payne.
I'll make a motion to support that.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Payne.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Juran. All right, all those who want to approve the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, I think the motion's passed. So thank you all. Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much. I think that'll be great to spend it on. And we'll definitely get out. We have a huge safety campaign, especially in September. It's Pedestrian Safety Month, so we purchased it just October, sorry. Okay, I know it was in fall. But, yeah, so we definitely get it out, if not before then, so.
Kelly, could we also have, once we get the materials in, have them available for this group if people
Yes.
want to take them out to their own communities, their own
Absolutely, yes.
events?
That would
So
be
if
great.
you have an audience that you would love to give out some of these materials to, definitely let us know if you have that, and then maybe like the number of
Yeah,
folks that you
perfect.
have.
Yep.
So we can maybe put some packages together for you guys, because we get these in bulk, so it'd be really nice to just hand you over a huge box and say, have at it, so helps us out too.
So things like community events that you might be going at, or maybe it's a parade that your community is having, somewhere that there's a bunch of people that are probably gonna be walking, that you could hand out these to, even with your HOAs or any of your community organizations that you might be plugged into.
Yeah, company
Um,
picnic, whatever it might be.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you for mentioning that. Mr. John.
Yeah, William Duran from the governor's office, personal representative to the council. You want to get this out. The best way to get this out and to get people advertised is your public schools. Have a person to go out and speak in your public schools, give out some of this memorabilia, because these children are gonna be your best advertisement for getting this word out there.
Absolutely, totally agree.
And if you're looking to spend money, you can spend money by doing a timeline on these hotspots where pedestrians are, different times during the day, because traffic patterns, people, it changes. And what frightens me the most is to see somebody in my capability out there on that road and not on the sidewalk, because there are no sidewalks.
Yeah.
It's a very good
That's a
point.
great suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, no wonder
I,
there's other studies.
I know we can't get sidewalk on every footage of every road, but even a bike lane. You know, something where if they're I've seen them in wheel power chairs, they're out there at night with no lights on. And it's very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not familiar with any other studies that have been done on that, so maybe there's some things that we can look into for that as well, like their past some research about hotspots, something like that for the streets.
Can I ask a question, Mr. John? So you mentioned wheelchair users. Are there specific like solar powered, battery powered, like some kind of lights that you are aware of that specifically affixed to wheelchairs?
They don't like to put them on them for that reason. They don't want you out there at night with a wheelchair.
Yeah, because I mean,
I fought
like,
for years trying to get the light package I have on mine,
yeah,
and they don't, the VA doesn't like to give them out because
okay,
of that fact, because if they give it a light, you can go out at night.
yeah.
And it gives you a false hope of,
I was thinking more a rear light, kind of like bikes with the red light on the back of it. So if you were walking, you should be walking with traffic.
you have a flashing light there.
Yeah.
You went to nursing homes and what have you,
Mhm.
of people that are in nursing, because they get out on dark buses.
Yeah,
And if they don't have any reflection on their chair, their susceptible to being hit.
yeah, that's what I was wondering. We have the clips and you can clip, there's usually somewhere you can clip it on the back, but I was wondering if there was something really custom for wheelchairs that's a little brighter than just a little light, but something we can look into
Yeah.
ourselves.
My thoughts? So one of the things that we need to do to wrap up our meeting today is elect a chair. I emailed you all to call for nominations, but we can certainly discuss any more that come from the floor today. We did receive one nomination already, came in from John Sisson to nominate Maureen Kelly who is our current DelDOT Deputy Director of Design and is serving on this council as Nicole Majeski's permanent alternate. So I sent out her full bio to the group for you to look at. Maureen, if you'd like to say a few words and introduce yourself to the group, I'll take a moment to do so.
I don't know if y'all had a chance to read what was sent out. I've been at the department since early 2000 in many different divisions and sections. So I have a wide knowledge of how the department works and contacts all throughout. Currently, as Kelly said, I'm the deputy director of our design group. So when they were talking about Peter and Scott giving the information out from our traffic statistics, that group's under me, as well as our design groups for bridges and roadways, and as well as the other group that I manage is our pavement and rehabilitation, or pavement management group, that deals a lot with trying to help out with some of our pedestrian connections that are non-compliant, to bring them up to our DelDOT standards, as well as working with Tom's group on other initiatives, and also Pam's division to try and also get her projects out and packaged and get advertised. So I have like I said, I have a wide knowledge of DelDOT, and have, been here for over 20 years. So that's just a little bit about myself, if anyone has any questions about that.
All right, well, thank you, Maureen. Are there any other nominations from the floor for the chair position? So it's a 2-year position, and then we'll hold another election after that. To the end. If there are none, is there a motion to hold a vote?
I make a motion.
How about a second?
Second.
All right, so all those in favor of Maureen Kelly for chair, please say aye.
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 Opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? All right, I think the ayes had it, and Maureen, you're now the chair, so thank you for that.
Congratulations.
So we'll certainly be in touch with you, planning the next meeting, and get you the agenda ahead of time, Maureen, and go through some of the things that we want to cover, and really give us feedback on all that too. So we'll get you in the loop. Thank you. Okay, so last but not least, before we leave today, I wanted to flip some next meeting dates that we might be able to use. So for the next council meeting, we're looking at the end of July. And I know there's a lot of vacations probably happening then, but that's okay, we'll let you go. So 2 days that we want to float to you are either Thursday, July 25th, or Friday, July 26th. The Thursday one would be in the afternoon at 1 o'clock again, and then the Friday one would be in the morning at 9 a.m. And then the next council meeting after that, we're looking at Wednesday, October 23rd. That would be in the morning at 9. And then later on, next year, we go into the next calendar year. We're back at January again, and looking at January 23rd on a Thursday, or January 24th, which is a Friday as well. So is there any major things that you see coming up on your calendars that might prevent a lot of people from attending? If it's just 1 or 2 off, that's okay. As long as we have quorum, we can keep moving with some things. And as we prop up our subcommittees, you'll be able to participate in those as well if you can't make a meeting occasionally. We do have in our regulation or our legislation that I think if you miss 3 consecutive meetings in a row, you're asked to step off the council, and then somebody else will be appointed in your place. So just be aware of that requirement. So does anybody have major heartburn with any of these dates at this point?
I know I can't do the October 23rd meeting. I have a FTA meeting in Philadelphia.
Okay, FTA meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll hone in on July at this point. Is there a preference in the room for a Thursday afternoon or Friday morning?
Thursday.
Thursday afternoon?
Thursday.
Is that easier to do afternoon than morning? I appreciate it. Okay, well, let's tentatively go for Thursday, July 25th for our next meeting then. You know, we'll double check your calendars and I'll send you a confirmation after this meeting about that.
Yeah, and, oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Pam.
Kelly,
Yeah,
and
please jump in.
just to confirm, you know, as all of the state agencies, we use Outlook, we just wanna confirm, we can convey that. I know if there's not many things that go on my calendar if it's not an Outlook invite. So I just wanted to get anybody's thoughts on, would you like us to do a combo thing where we send a meeting, like an Outlook meeting invite, and then I don't know if our OGov appointed people, if they would like to get an Outlook invite, or if you would like just a regular email. We're just trying to make sure that we're gonna communicate with you the way you would like to be
So yeah, and I'll just
communicated
add
to.
on to that, I didn't have a chance to talk with Pam earlier, but I did get messages back from folks that don't have the Outlook email.
Okay,
And
okay,
they said that they accepted the meeting request from me that came out, but that doesn't respond back to me for some
Oh,
reason.
okay.
So I didn't see that they accepted it and they're like, oh yeah, I did accept, you know, but so they just separately sent me an RSVP email to let me know when I follow up with them. So yeah, so that might be an issue for them, but I can continue to send out the Outlook meeting request for everybody with the Outlook, you know, system, and then you can add it to your calendar. Just, if you don't have Outlook, just please respond to me with a real email, something like that. Or we could like do a survey, you know, something, so they click on it and say yes, you know, so maybe that's another way to handle it too, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that sound like a better route for everyone?
Yep.
yeah, and if you don't wanna, I mean, if you wanna speak directly to, you know, Kelly offline, we just wanna make sure that like, we're not pestering you, first of all, that you get, you know, so if we send the meeting invite and you do have Outlook, then we know that you accepted it, but, yeah, but there might be a program out there that we could use.
Yeah, like maybe we
Yeah.
could set up like a survey. Okay, we'll look into that. Other than that, I will send out all these as like a meeting invite, like as soon as we like confirm everything internally, we'll send those out, so you have that on your calendar way ahead of time, so it doesn't, you know, interfere with anything else you have going on. Other than John's meeting, so, yeah.
I'll just jump in real quick. For anyone that feels like we could benefit from a deeper dive on any topic, anything that you might wanna learn more about, please send those ideas to Kelly, because we can tap a lot of experts through this council to present on various topics. So if there's anything that any of you feel like, I'd really like to learn more about how this is done or how that's done or why something is a certain way, please send that to Kelly. Because we are kind of targeting the 1.5 hour to 2 hour time frame for these meetings, which allows us time to bring in other presenters from DelDOT and other agencies as well. So just want to make that pitch to the group and ask anything at all that comes up ever, go to Kelly or Maureen now, Maureen, of those ideas.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Angie. And then I think also we have some great, we had some great input from you all on the subcommittee. So but before that July meeting, maybe we'll have some correspondence to, you know, have like possible ones, and if anybody wants to be involved in them, maybe we'll do some sort of, I don't know, the tech survey or whatever, like so if you're interested in that would be great, and then we can work with you on like when you guys are wanting to meet for all of that as well, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's about all that I have to present with you all today. Is there any other comments or questions from the council before we break up?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, well, I hope everybody has a great afternoon.